Hey guys, what's up? So today I just want to talk about the basics of shooting sports, or what I think the basics are and what I learned in my past 3 years of shooting sports, because I think I learned untraditionally. I just kind of went out and did it. And a lot of people were, give me tips and stuff, but I felt like I had different ways of doing things. So I just want to talk about some of the tips that I think you should know, or maybe you should try if you're trying to get into sports photography. So here's some of those tips. So first, I feel like knowing the sport is definitely going to help you. Like if you're going to a football game and you don't understand the rules or the action or what could possibly happen during a play, it's going to be a lot harder to catch the peak action, because that's what you want to get, is the peak action. And if you don't know what a quarterback is, or what a wide receiver is, or what a linebacker is, it might be a little harder. And especially if you don't know the play. Like if you don't know possible plays, like you don't know that there's passes or kicking or running or, blitz from defense side. So it would definitely help if you understood the sport that you're trying to shoot, like basketball, soccer, football, rugby, whatever it may be. There's always a little bit you should probably know before you go into it. And obviously, if you're getting into sports photography, you're probably a sports fan. But if you don't know the sport all that great, like I went and shot volleyball a while back, and I don't really fully understand it other than you hit the ball back and forth. But if you don't understand that there's a setter, a bumper, a spiker, or whatever it may be, then you're going to think the ball is going over the net after every hit. But really, they're all working together to get that spike, to get that point. And so you got to be ready for the low dig on the receiving side, where they might be diving for it. You got to be ready for that low hit and or that dive or whatever it may be. So knowing the sport will definitely help you. And then another thing is proper shutter speed. I always thought I'm going to keep my ISO low. I'll go 1/100th of a second on my shutter, but you're going to pick up blur. At 100th of a second, you're going to pick up blur. You're going to want to be like 800 to 1,000th of a second so you can stop that action. And you're going to probably have to raise that ISO, especially if you don't have a fast lens like an f2.8 or a 1.8 or an f2. If you have one of those kit lenses that are f3.5 to 5.6, you're really going to have to figure out what you're going to be okay with on motion blur, because you're going to have to slow down that shutter to allow your camera to get enough light in there without having your ISO too high. And luckily, I've had a camera that I can go pretty high on the ISO, like a Nikon D3S. I can go up to 8,000 and feel comfortable with shooting a football game at that, or 12,800, which is crazy high. It's still noisy, but I know the images are going to be good enough for the newspaper that I shoot for. But I try to keep it down at like 6,400 now, and that's with an f2.8 lens. So having the proper shutter speed to be able to capture the peak action is definitely something you need to understand and what you should know. And it will vary from sports. Some sports are a little slower, and you can probably get away with 5/100th of a second. It all depends. So another thing I feel like you should probably know, or you should look into getting, is maybe a 70-200. I know that's going to be a far fetch for a first lens, but like if you're doing basketball, understanding where you're going to be shooting most of the game at is probably under the basket, sort of, depending on if the cheerleaders are there or not. You definitely want to shoot on the baseline. You don't want to shoot from the side. My opinion, I would shoot under the basket if you can, off to the side a little bit. And in basketball, you can get away with a 50mm, which you can get for just $100 at Best Buy. The Canon 50 1.8, it's like $98 new. And you could probably even find it cheaper used. And I feel like a 50mm is probably a lens that everyone should always get at the beginning. It's just a great lens. You get a shallow depth of field. You can really experiment with that f1.8. And so a 51.8 would be a good start for basketball. Now football, that's not going to work unless they're like coming at you on the sideline. But for most sports, you're gonna, like a 70-200 would be a great lens to get first. And that was one of my biggest goals when I first started, was get a 70-200, is what I was told by everyone. And I got the 70-200 and I loved it. And then once I got that and I was shooting everything at 200mm, I was like, I want more. So then I got the Sigma 120-300 f2.8 by Sigma. And I use that for everything now, except for basketball. Basketball, I use my 85. And you just got to learn what lens works for you. But having the right lens is definitely going to help you, and a fast lens at that, and the right focal length to be able to get close enough to the action. So definitely getting the right lens is going to be a huge benefit. Another thing is if you can have burst mode in your camera. If you're able to take 4 photos per second, or 5, or maybe 10, whatever your camera may do. I mean, you might get lucky and it might do 12. But being able to do those bursts are going to allow you to start a little early within the tackle, or within the throw, or within the run, and burst through the action. And you might just get that perfect image where right when they hit, or right when the ball goes through the hoop, or right when it's coming off their fingertip for a shot, or right when they're kicking, whatever it may be. With burst shooting, you'll be able to get the action and not worry about missing it. Now, you'll also have to make sure that you're getting your camera focusing fast enough, and that's where a fast lens will also come and help, like an f2.8 or 1.8 or f2. Having a faster lens, it will probably focus faster and will allow you to miss less shots because of the focus. Another thing is having the right focal length allows you to shoot tight, so you don't have to crop in so much in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever you edit on. The closer you can get to the action with your lens at the proper focal length before post-processing will definitely help your image quality, and it'll just look better. So always try to shoot as tight as possible so you don't have to edit it and crop it in later as much or at all. And then my last thing would probably be, don't stop shooting just because the whistle blew, or just because the play ended, or even if the game hasn't started. You will probably find emotion in the players, or whatever it may be, before and after the play, or even a timeout in the huddle. You know, if you stop at every whistle, you're going to miss a lot of those cool emotional shots that you can get, or you won't be paying attention. You won't get when the players dump the water cooler on the coach, or a really emotional like loss or something. Like, yeah, they might be crying because they just lost a championship, but those can be really, really strong images for your portfolio. And so I'm always shooting before, after, during, whatever it may be. I'm always shooting. Like, I'm usually at games half an hour early and not leaving until half an hour after. And that's because I really love getting those images of just like close portraits of the player, emotional, or trying to hype up the other players, or just getting the crowd going, or just a tough loss, whatever it may be. You're going to get that real emotion by not stopping when the whistle blows. So always keep shooting no matter what's happening, because you never know when you get that really strong image that the parents might buy, or the player might really appreciate, whatever it may be. So those are some of my tips for shooting sports. If you guys want to know more or any specifics, let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys coming back. Like and subscribe. I would really love to grow this channel. And so if you have any suggestions on videos that you would like to see, let me know. Thanks, guys.